Whether you are just starting out in wedding photography or you have been a photographer for some time, you should definitely consider being a second shooter for someone, and this is why. I had been a full-time photographer for almost 5 years at the time, and I had never shot with any other photographer ever in those 5 years. I never learned from another wedding photographer. I was like, I have learned all of this on my own, and I don't need anyone. I don't need to learn anything from anyone. Oh, young me. I didn't think that I ever needed to do that. I kind of just saw it as a bit of a failure. Like, you can't book your own wedding, so you got to work for somebody else, or you need some extra money, so you need to do that. And while those are some reasons to second shoot for someone, what I didn't realize that there was actually so much to learn as being a second shooter. And it didn't just mean that, well, you just can't book your own weddings. There's actually way more to it than that. And so I came up with 6 reasons to why you should look into becoming a second shooter. And if any of you, have done this, if you've been a second shooter or you didn't want to and then you do it and you had some experiences or you learned some things, I would love to hear from you in the comments to let me know what you thought of being a second shooter. Number 1 is that you can learn what to do. This is particularly helpful if you are a beginner, if you are starting off and you're like, I don't know how to shoot a wedding at all. I don't know how to interact with clients. I don't know how to do any of this. And so if you go in as a second shooter, you're going to learn the business of wedding photography. You're going to learn how to deal with clients. You're going to see the photographer and what gear they use at certain times of the day, how they use the gear, how they pose couples, how they talk to couples, all of those things. You're going to learn what to do. And that is huge if you are just starting out. Another really helpful thing, and this is dependent on photographers. I think I've worked with some that will give you some feedback or just give you zero feedback. But what you could always do is just ask for some feedback. Ask like, hey, what should I be doing? Or like, how can I take better photos after you maybe work with them on one day and they look through your photos? Ask like, what could I be doing better? If you are already kind of established photographer, you have some weddings under your own belt, but you're looking to be a second photographer, I think having the right expectations. You're not going to go in and work with someone and just be like, wow, like they do things so differently. That's probably not the case, but there are some 1-2% differences that you could take if you're observant, if you're really there to kind of like learn and see what they're doing. Then there's some really great things that you can pull out and learn and use in your own business. Number 2, you can learn what not to do. This is the really powerful aspect if you are already a photographer. The reality is that everyone's not perfect and photographers make mistakes. People handle things differently. And I think what I've experienced is that I've really learned a lot from seeing how photographers do things wrong. I know that kind of sounds bad, but it's almost clearer to kind of see when something goes wrong. And then you can say like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to do it like that. The biggest thing I learned here is in client relations. When you're a second photographer, you don't have all that stress that the primary photographer has, right? You're able to kind of sit back and just kind of watch what happens. And there was a lot of times where I actually saw the reactions of the clients after the main photographer left the room or went and did something else. I kind of saw how they handled things and then what their reactions were. You're a little bit more anonymous in a way. And because of that, you're able to kind of firsthand see what happens when things go wrong and learn what not to do. Number 3 is that you see a different perspective of the wedding day when you're not the primary photographer. It was almost like watching myself like in the third person throughout a wedding day as someone who had already been shooting weddings. And that really helped me see what was actually important on a wedding day. I think it's easy as photographers in general that we love gear, we love getting, the best shot in the best angle in the best moment. But ultimately, shooting weddings is more than that. It's more than just the moments. You have to be aware of what's going on around you. You have to know kind of the context of the whole day. I realized that there was moments that I could see it in myself watching photographers that I had worked with, was that I was rushing around, panicked about this particular thing and the particular lighting on this particular thing, and realized that I was actually so stressed about some things that I missed the moment right in front of me. Number 4 is that you just get better when you shoot more weddings. You are going to shoot a lot more weddings, so you're going to get more practice and you're going to get better as a photographer. I had very full seasons the couple years that I was shooting for other photographers, and it was insane. It was very regular for me to be shooting at least 2 weddings on a weekend, sometimes 3 with like a little extra event as well. It was bananas. I was shooting so many things. And because of that, I just got like this extra boost in those years of getting practice, using my camera over and over again, being in all these different scenarios. The only thing that you do have to be careful about is kind of checking out and going on auto mode. It's hard when they aren't your own weddings. You don't feel the kind of the same pressure when someone hires you directly. But one thing that I tried to do was I just tried to like be present, be there every time, and tell myself, like, no matter the situation, no matter how I feel, I am here to learn and I'm here to get better. And I think because I went into it with that mindset, even though it was very difficult, even though it was long summers and long days and my body was aching, I did learn so much because I went in there determined to learn as much as I could. Number 5 is that you ultimately appreciate your own weddings. I'm guessing that if you're interested in wedding photography or you went into photography, the dream wasn't necessarily to work for someone else. And what I found was that I just like really appreciated and saw what I had in my own business when I had to work for someone else. And number 6 is that it gave me confidence. This is why I say whether you're a beginner or an experienced photographer, it's so helpful to shoot for someone else. Because in my experience, I realized, wow, like I give a great experience. I give a great product to my couples. But before, I didn't have any way to compare that. But when I shot with other photographers, I realized like, wow, I actually give incredible value. Like I give amazing value. It gave me the additional kind of boost of confidence that I needed to continue going in the direction that I had already started in. So get out there, find someone to second shoot for, and let me know how it goes. Hopefully you don't have a bad experience. And in the meantime, if you want to learn more about wedding photography, film photography, and all the things of being an artist as a photographer, make sure you hit subscribe, and then I will see you at the next video.